I found the secret deed to my wife's hidden mansion for her lover. The smell of stale coffee and desperation hung heavy in the air, a scent I'd grow far too accustomed to. My fingers, slick with sweat, fumbled with the lock on the old filing cabinet in Sarah's home office, the one she always kept locked, the one she always said was just for important work stuff. Turns out, important work stuff for Sarah meant something entirely different. This whole unraveling, it started with a misplaced charger, a forgotten password, and a gut feeling I'd been ignoring for months, maybe even years. Before we dive any deeper into this mess, if you're finding yourself drawn into this story, if it's hitting you in the gut like it hit me, do us both a favor and hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it takes 2 seconds and it really helps the channel keep going. Lets us share more of these raw, unfiltered stories. And if you dig this, give it a like, share it with anyone you think might understand, and leave a comment. Let me know if you've ever been blindsided like this, or what you would have done. Your thoughts mean the world. I'm Alex, 38 years old, or at least I was before my world imploded. I'm a graphic designer. Pretty standard stuff, freelance. Mostly working from home, which was usually a perk. Gave me flexibility, more time with Sarah. Or so I thought. We'd been married for 12 years. 12 years of what I believed was solid, comfortable, maybe a little predictable, yeah, but in a good way, like a well-worn leather armchair. We had the house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, the whole picket fence fantasy, minus the actual fence and definitely minus the actual white picket fence. Our house was nice, modern, good neighborhood, decent schools for the kids we talked about but never seemed to get around to having. That was always Sarah's thing, the kids. She wanted to wait until her career was really taking off. And it was. Her real estate empire, as she liked to call it, was booming. She was always on the go. Deals, meetings, networking events, glamorous, successful. Everything I wasn't, or at least everything I told myself I wasn't. I was content, or I told myself I was. The suspicion, when it started, was a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor beneath the surface of our everyday. It wasn't a dramatic movie moment, no shadowy figures or hushed phone calls. It was smaller. It was the way her phone was suddenly always face down, even on the nightstand. It was the late nights that stretched into early mornings, attributed to urgent client needs. It was the vague answers when I asked about her day, a shorthand she never used with me before. We used to tell each other everything, every stupid client complaint, every triumph, every fleeting thought. Now it felt like I was talking to a stranger who happened to share my bed.
I remember one Tuesday, it was raining like hell outside. One of those relentless, soaking rains that makes you want to curl up and disappear. I was working on a logo for a new tech startup, killer deadline, and my laptop decided to just die. Black screen, no life. Panic set in. I needed a specific file, a draft I hadn't saved to the cloud yet. I knew Sarah kept a spare laptop, a sleek silver thing she used for presentations in her office. I'd used it a few times before. She always told me, "Anything you need, honey, just ask." So I went to her office. It was usually immaculate, her domain. This time it was a mess. Papers scattered, a half-empty coffee cup, and the filing cabinet, usually locked tight, was slightly ajar. Curiosity, a dangerous beast, nudged me. I told myself it was just for the laptop, just to find the charger, maybe the spare power cord. But the filing cabinet, it was like a magnet. I pulled it open, the drawers groaning in protest. Old client files, contracts, boring stuff. Then in the bottom drawer, tucked beneath a stack of tax returns, I saw it. A manila envelope, unmarked. My heart started a drum solo against my ribs. Inside wasn't what I expected. Not love letters, not damning texts. It was a deed, a property deed, and a mortgage statement. Both pristine, official, bearing Sarah's name as the sole owner. That was weird enough. She hadn't mentioned buying any property. But then I saw the address. It wasn't anywhere near us. It was in a completely different state, a place I'd never heard her mention. A quick Google search, fueled by a growing unease, painted a picture. This wasn't some fixer-upper. It was a sprawling estate, a mansion, nestled in the rolling hills of, I won't say the state just yet. It was opulent. Pictures showed manicured lawns, a private pool, a guest house. It was the kind of place you see in magazines, the kind of place people dream of owning. But Sarah, my Sarah,
The woman who clip-clopped around our suburban neighborhood in sensible heels, who complained about the cost of groceries. She owned this? This secret paradise? My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was an investment, a business deal she'd forgotten to mention. But the mortgage statement, the specific property, it felt too personal for a simple investment. And then there was the name on the application for the mortgage. Not hers, not ours, a man's name, a name I didn't recognize. And that's when the cold dread really set in, a creeping paralysis that had nothing to do with the rain outside. This wasn't just a financial secret. This was something else, something that made my hand shake so hard I had to put the papers down. I remember closing the filing cabinet, my movements jerky, my breath catching in my throat. I felt like I was stealing, like I was treading on sacred ground, but the urge to know, to understand, was a raging fire.
I found the spare laptop, thankfully, and managed to salvage my work. But the files on my screen seemed to swim and blur. All I could see were those official documents, that address, that unfamiliar name. I went through the motions that night. Dinner, a fake conversation about my day, her vague updates about work. Every question I asked felt loaded, every answer a potential lie. I watched her, really watched her, for the first time in a long time. The way she laughed at a sitcom rerun, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Was it all an act? Was this incredible woman I loved, the woman I'd built a life with, completely fabricated? The mansion, the deed, the mortgage, it all pointed to something I couldn't even begin to articulate. A lover, a secret life, a whole separate existence she'd meticulously constructed while I was busy living my own, blissfully unaware. The thought was a physical blow. I felt nauseous. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The man looking back was a stranger, his eyes wide with a terror he'd never known. The next few days were a blur of obsessive research. I dug deeper, using the information from the deed. I found property records, tax assessments, even old newspaper clippings about this estate. It was stunning, sprawling, and apparently had a history of being a discreet getaway. The man's name on the mortgage, I finally tracked him down online. He was an architect, successful by the looks of his portfolio, and there, on his company's website, was a picture. A recent one. He was handsome, dark hair, sharp features, a confident smile. He looked like the kind of guy who got what he wanted. And then I scrolled through his social media, a rabbit hole of professional photos. And then I saw it. A picture. Taken from what looked like a party, a large gathering. And in the background, standing with him, laughing, her arm casually around his shoulders. It was Sarah. My Sarah. Not in our town, not at a work event I knew about, but there, in this incredible mansion, with this man. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It was a certainty. A brutal, soul-crushing certainty. I confronted her, not with accusations, but with a question that felt like it tore out my throat. Sarah. I started, my voice raspy. Who is David Chen? The way her eyes flickered, the almost imperceptible tightening around her mouth, the way she looked away, pretending to study a point on the wall. It was all the confirmation I needed. She stammered something about a past client, a business associate, a property she'd helped him acquire. But her voice was too high, her explanation too flimsy. The carefully constructed facade was starting to crumble, and the cracks were showing, widening into chasms. She tried to brush it off, to laugh it away, but the fear in her eyes was a betrayal in itself. The silence that followed her weak defense was deafening, filled only by the frantic thumping of my own heart and the echo of that mansion, her secret second life, standing starkly against the mundane reality of our suburban home. I knew, with a sickening finality, that everything I thought I knew was a lie. The woman I loved, the life I'd built, it was all built on sand, and the tide had just come in. And I was standing on the beach, watching it all wash away.
The deed, the mansion, the architect. It was all hers. And I, her husband, was the last to know. The shock was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see Sarah. I saw a stranger. And the question that screamed in my head, the one I couldn't yet ask, was, who the hell was I to her? Who was I to any of this? The air in the room thickened, charged with an unspoken dread, and I knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning, and I was utterly, completely lost. The air in our living room crackled, not with the usual static of a humid summer evening, but with a tension so thick it felt like static electricity was crawling under my skin. She was trying to play it cool, her usual confident posture a little too rigid, her smile a little too wide, like a billboard advertising happiness that was clearly not for sale. David Chen? Oh, Alex? That name, it's been ages. He was a client ages ago. A bit eccentric, really. Bought a property upstate. I helped him find it. Why do you ask? Her words tumbled out, a practiced cascade designed to soothe, to deflect. But the flicker in her eyes, that almost imperceptible sideways glance, was a siren song I was no longer deaf to. It was the sound of a lie being manufactured in real time, a performance I'd been the unwitting audience for years. Upstate? I echoed, my voice dangerously calm. Too calm, probably. The kind of calm before a hurricane. Funny, the deed said it was in, I don't know, let's call it Harmony Hills. Not exactly a suburb of New York City, is it, Sarah? I watched her, searching for any crack in the dam. She blinked. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor ran through her. Harmony Hills? I don't recall the exact name of the development. It was a while ago. He had very specific tastes. Specific tastes that included a mansion, apparently, I said, my gaze never leaving hers. The words felt like stones, heavy and sharp, dropping one by one into the charged silence. A mansion you helped him buy, a mansion he paid for with a mortgage you co-signed for, according to this. I didn't have the deed on me, of course, but the memory of it was etched into my brain. The crisp paper, the official seals, the bold print of David Chen's name next to hers. Her face went pale. Not a flush of embarrassment, but a stark, bone-deep pallor that leached the color from her lips.
Her fingers, which had been idly tracing the rim of her wine glass, stilled. Co-signed. Alex, that's not possible. It was his investment. I just facilitated the purchase. Facilitated, I repeated, the word tasting like ash. And the pictures, Sarah? The ones on his website? The ones showing you facilitating things at this mansion with him? The memory of that photo, her arm around his shoulder, her laugh frozen in pixels, sent another wave of nausea through me. It wasn't a professional photo. It wasn't a work event. It was intimate. It was familiar. It was everything our life together wasn't, or at least everything I'd convinced myself it was. She finally looked away, her gaze fixing on the floral pattern of the rug. That was a networking event, a real estate conference. He invited several people. It was a good opportunity to see the property, from an investor's perspective. A real estate conference in Harmony Hills, at his private mansion. And you didn't think to mention this to me? My voice rose, the calm facade cracking. The years of building, of trust, of shared dreams, felt like they were crumbling into dust around us. The man you co-signed a mortgage for, the man whose mansion is apparently your clandestine playground, was just a business associate. Alex, you're blowing this out of proportion, she said, her voice gaining a defensive edge. It was her go-to move when she was cornered. Attack, deflect, gaslight. It was a professional courtesy, nothing more. Nothing more. I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Nothing more than a secret mansion, a co-signed mortgage, and photos of you looking like you belong there, with him. What is this, Sarah? What is happening? The words spilled out, a torrent of confusion and hurt. I walked away from her, pacing the length of the living room, my hands clenched into fists. Every step felt heavy, like I was walking through quicksand. I can explain, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Can you? I stopped,
turning to face her. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd planned a future with, looked like a cornered animal. Her eyes were wide, pleading, but there was also something else there, something I couldn't quite decipher. Defiance? Resignation? Because right now, Sarah, all I see is a lie, a very expensive, very well-furnished lie. This mansion, is it just an investment, or is it yours and his? She flinched at the word his. It's complicated, Alex. Complicated doesn't cover co-signed mortgages and secret houses, Sarah. I shot back, the anger finally bubbling to the surface. Complicated is trying to figure out how to pay the car insurance. Complicated is deciding what to make for dinner. This is betrayal. This is a whole other life. A life you've been living while I've been here, thinking we were building something together. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of years of unspoken truths.
She finally stood, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. It's not like that. It was supposed to be a fresh start. For me. For us, maybe, down the line. A fresh start? Where? In a mansion I didn't know existed with a man I didn't know existed? My voice cracked. What about our life, Sarah? Our home, the future we talked about? Were those just placeholders, waiting for your real life to begin? No, of course not. Her voice was rising now, the veneer of calm completely shattered. You were part of it. You always were. I needed to secure something for us. David owed me. He owed me a lot. Owed you? How? The plot thickened, twisting into something even more convoluted and painful. My mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of her explanation. David Chen, the architect, the mansion, the mortgage, Sarah's involvement. What did he owe you, Sarah? Enough to buy you a mansion? She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor again. He made a mistake, a significant professional error. It cost me, a lot. And this property, it was a way to recoup, to make me whole again. So, this wasn't about love? This was business? The words felt hollow. If it was just business, why the secrecy? Why the photos that looked so much more than business? Then why the lock on the filing cabinet, Sarah? Why the lies? Why the hushed phone calls and the late nights that weren't about work? Because I knew you wouldn't understand, she said, her voice laced with a desperate plea. You're so grounded, so practical. You wouldn't see the potential. You just see the risk, the money. And with David, he was complicated. Things got messy. Messy how? I pressed, stepping closer. The air between us was thick with unspoken history. Did you just help him buy the mansion, or did you help him build it? Did you just facilitate the purchase, or did you live there? The question hung in the air, a dark, heavy shadow. She recoiled, her eyes wide with something that looked like fear and something that looked like guilt. Alex, please, don't do this. Don't do what, Sarah? Don't ask questions? Don't try to understand the woman I married? The woman who apparently has a secret mansion and a complicated history with an architect? I was shaking now, not just with anger, but with a profound sense of loss. The ground beneath my feet felt unstable, like an earthquake had just hit, and I was the only one who felt it. I found the deed, Sarah, the deed to a mansion, and I saw the photos. You can't just tell me it's complicated and expect me to walk away. Who is David Chen to you, Sarah? Truly. She took a shaky breath, her eyes meeting mine for the first time since the confrontation began. There was a raw vulnerability there now, a flicker of the woman I'd fallen in love with, buried beneath layers of deception. He was more than a client, Alex, for a time. The words hit me like a physical blow. My breath hitched. More than a client? I whispered, the realization dawning, cold and sharp. It wasn't just a secret investment. It wasn't just business. It was her and him in that mansion. You had an affair with him, didn't you? Her silence was the loudest confirmation. Her head bowed, her shoulders slumping. The dam finally broke, and the tears began to fall, silent at first, then building into a ragged sob. It was a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. I was feeling lost, unseen, and he was attentive. He made me feel alive. The The word echoed in the hollow space where my heart used to be. Alive. While I was just there, existing, making her life comfortable and predictable while she sought life elsewhere. The betrayal was a physical ache, a burning in my chest that spread through my limbs, leaving them numb and weak. You felt lost, I repeated, my voice raw with pain. You felt unseen? Sarah, I'm your husband. I love you. I thought we were together. Was I not enough? Was our life not enough? It wasn't about you, Alex, she choked out, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. It was about me, my own insecurities, my own need for validation, I guess. He offered it, and I took it. It was wrong. So wrong. And I regretted it almost immediately. But then he insisted on the property. He said it was a way to make amends, to create a safe space. And it spiraled. A safe space, I scoffed, the bitterness a metallic taste in my mouth. So the mansion was your safe space for your affair, your secret getaway from your husband who apparently was not enough? The words were cruel, I knew, but I couldn't stop them. The pain was a raging inferno, consuming everything in its path. And you kept it. You kept the mansion, the deed, the mortgage, and you kept him, didn't you? Even after it was over, you kept this secret life. She shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. No, it's over. It's been over for years. I couldn't bring myself to sell it. It felt like a part of me. A mistake, yes, but a part of my history. And David, he's gone now. He moved on. Married someone else, I heard. Gone? My mind reeled. Gone? So the pictures were old? The mansion was still hers? Still a monument to her betrayal? But the architect was out of the picture? That was supposed to make it better? So you kept the evidence of your affair? You kept the physical reminder of him? Of them? It wasn't like that, she pleaded. It was complicated. Complicated, I said again, the word now a weapon, a shield she hid behind. You know what's not complicated, Sarah? Honesty, trust, marriage. Those are simple things. And you shattered them. You shattered everything. I turned away, needing to put distance between us, needing to breathe air that didn't feel thick with her deception. I walked towards the front door, the familiar hallway suddenly feeling alien and hostile.
Alex, where are you going? Her voice, trembling, followed me. I don't know, I admitted, my hand on the doorknob. But I can't be here right now. I can't look at you. I can't look at this house, this life, because it's all tainted. It's all built on a lie. Please don't go, she sobbed, her voice breaking. We can fix this. We can work through this. Fix this? I turned back, my gaze sweeping over her tear-streaked face, her disheveled appearance. She looked pathetic and angry and scared. All the emotions I was feeling reflected back at me. How do you fix this, Sarah? How do you unlie? How do you unbetray? How do you unbuild a secret mansion with a lover you lied to your husband about for years? She didn't have an answer. Her silence was a scream. I opened the door, the cool night air a welcome relief. I stepped out onto the porch, the familiar suburban street suddenly feeling like a foreign landscape. The streetlights cast long, distorted shadows, and the quiet hum of the neighborhood felt like a mockery of the storm raging inside me. I got into my car, the worn leather of the driver's seat feeling like a foreign material. The engine turned over, a low rumble that did nothing to soothe the chaos in my head. I pulled out of the driveway, the house I'd shared with Sarah receding in my rearview mirror. It looked just like it always did. 2 cars in the drive, lights on inside.
a picture of normalcy. But I knew what lay beneath the surface. The rot, the deception, the secret mansion, a testament to a life she'd lived outside of mine. As I drove, the questions kept coming, each one a fresh stab of pain. Had she really loved him? Or was it just a desperate attempt to feel something, anything, when she felt like she was fading away? Was this mansion just an escape, or a symbol of her ambition, her desire for something more, something grander than our comfortable suburban existence? And that name on the mortgage, David Chen. She said he was gone, moved on. But what if he wasn't? What if he was still a factor? What if this wasn't just about Sarah and her past, but about something more complex, something still unfolding? I drove for what felt like hours, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of indifference. Every street corner, every passing car felt like a potential threat, a reminder of the world I no longer understood. I was adrift, a ship without a compass, lost in a sea of Sarah's secrets. I thought about the deed, the legal documents, the proof of her double life. I had it. I could confront her again. I could demand answers. I could, what? Burn it all down? Start divorce proceedings? The thought was overwhelming, paralyzing. Then another thought, chilling and insidious, wormed its way into my mind. She said David Chen was gone. He'd moved on. But what if he hadn't? What if the reason she'd kept the mansion, the reason for the elaborate lie, wasn't just about a past mistake, but about a present obligation?
What if David Chen wasn't just a past lover, but someone who still held a piece of her or her secrets in his hand? What if this wasn't just about infidelity, but about something far more dangerous? The questions gnawed at me, a relentless tide of unease. The mansion, the deed, the architect. They were more than just the remnants of a broken marriage. They were pieces of a puzzle, and I was still missing vital parts. And the biggest, most terrifying question of all echoed in the empty space beside me. If this was all true, if she had this entire hidden life, what else was she capable of? What else was she hiding? The darkness outside my car window suddenly felt like a reflection of the darkness that had just consumed my world, and I had a terrifying feeling I was only just beginning to see its true depth. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, the road ahead disappearing into an abyss of uncertainty and fear. The engine idled, the sound a low thrumming in the oppressive silence of the parked car. I'd ended up on the outer edge of the city, where the streetlights started to thin out, replaced by the vast, indifferent sprawl of the night sky. My mind was a battlefield, a chaotic clash of love, fury, and a bone-deep confusion that felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. Her words, he was more than a client, Alex, for a time, replayed in an endless loop, each repetition a fresh shard of glass twisting in my gut. More than a client. The euphemism hung in the air, thick with unspoken implications, with the phantom scent of betrayal. And then, it was a mistake, a terrible, stupid mistake. A mistake, that's what she called it. A mistake that involved a secret mansion, a co-signed mortgage, intimate photographs, and years of lies. A mistake that fractured my entire reality, that turned the foundation of our life into a crumbling ruin. I'd always seen Sarah as my anchor, the steady presence in my sometimes turbulent world. Her competence, her ambition, her drive, I admired them. I'd build my life around them. I told myself that her long hours, her occasional emotional distance, were just the price of admission for a woman who was carving her own path. I was so damn proud of her. And she was in another man's mansion, sharing, what? Intimacy. A life I'd never even known existed. The word alive echoed, a cruel whisper in the darkness. She felt alive with him. What did that make me? A fixture, a comfort, a necessary component of her life, but not the source of her exhilaration. The thought was a slow, burning humiliation. I'd poured everything into our relationship, my time, my energy, my future. I'd envisioned us growing old together, a quiet, comfortable partnership built on shared history and mutual respect. And all along, she'd been living a parallel life, a secret existence that was apparently far more vibrant, far more alive. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. her pleas, "Please, don't go. We can fix this," now seemed like hollow echoes, desperate attempts to salvage something she'd already broken. How do you fix a broken trust? How do you mend a fractured reality? How do you unsee a secret mansion built on lies? I couldn't. Not now. Not ever. The house, our house, the one filled with our shared memories, suddenly felt suffocating. Every photograph on the wall, every piece of furniture we'd chosen together, was now tainted, a silent witness to her deception. I started the car, the engine's rumble a jarring intrusion into the stillness. I needed distance. I needed to clear my head, to try and make sense of the wreckage. The drive was a blur of neon signs and deserted industrial parks. My mind, however, was anything but clear. It replayed every interaction, every conversation, searching for clues I'd missed, for the subtle signs that had been there all along, masked by my own willful blindness. The late nights at work, the vague explanations for extended business trips, the occasional flashes of defensiveness when I asked about her professional life. It was all there, a mosaic of deception I had refused to assemble. And David Chen. The name felt like a phantom limb, an ache where something vital had once been. She'd said he was gone, moved on, married someone else. A convenient exit, I thought bitterly. Had he simply moved on from Sarah, or had he moved on from their shared secret? Was the mansion truly just a relic of a past indiscretion, or was there something more, something binding them still? The word complicated gnawed at me. It was her shield, her excuse, her escape clause. But what if it was more than that? What if complicated meant something far darker, far more dangerous? I thought about the deed, the physical proof of this other life. I had it in my briefcase, tucked away like a loaded gun. I could go back. I could lay it on the coffee table. I could demand a full, unvarnished confession. But what would that achieve? Would it bring back the years of trust? Would it erase the image of her with another man in another home? It would only amplify the pain, the humiliation. A chilling thought, cold and sharp, pierced through the fog of my emotions. She'd said David owed her, that he'd made a mistake, and the mansion was a way to recoup, to make her whole. What if this wasn't just about a personal failing on her part, but a calculated transaction? What if this mansion wasn't just a trophy of a past affair, but a piece of leverage, a constant reminder of a debt owed, a secret held? The implications were unsettling, a ripple effect of unease spreading through me. I drove aimlessly, the city lights gradually giving way to the inky blackness of the countryside. The air grew cooler, crisper, a stark contrast to the humid tension I'd left behind. I pulled over onto the shoulder of a deserted highway, the only sound the distant drone of traffic. I leaned my head back against the headrest, the silence amplifying the turmoil within. I thought of our wedding vows, for better or for worse. I never imagined the worse would involve a secret mansion and a lover who was apparently an architect with whom she'd co-signed a mortgage. My mind drifted back to our early days, to the spark, the excitement. We were building something, or so I thought, a life, a family, a future. Now that future felt like a mirage, a carefully constructed illusion that had finally dissolved. And the architect, David Chen, was he just a footnote in Sarah's past, or was he something more? The deed was in his name alongside hers. She said he was gone, but what if he wasn't? What if he held power over her, a power that extended beyond their romantic entanglements? The idea was terrifying, a new layer of dread added to the existing devastation. I opened the glove compartment, my fingers fumbling for a stray packet of gum. My hand brushed against something smooth and metallic, a small silver flask. Sarah's. She kept it for emergencies. I hadn't seen it in years. I pulled it out, the cool metal a stark contrast to my clammy palm. It felt heavy, solid, a tangible piece of her carefully curated facade. I hesitated for a moment, then unscrewed the cap. The scent of cheap liquor, familiar and unsettling, filled the air. I took a long swig,
It burned going down, a welcome physical sensation to distract from the emotional agony. I took another swig, and another. The alcohol didn't numb the pain, not entirely, but it softened the edges, blurring the sharp contours of my despair. My thoughts became more erratic, less coherent, a swirling vortex of anger, regret, and a desperate yearning for answers. She owed him, he owed her, a mansion, a mortgage, a secret life. It was a tangled web, and I was caught in its sticky threads. What if the architect was more than just a lover? What if he was a threat? What if the mansion was a bribe, a way to keep her quiet, to keep her complicit? The scenarios played out in my mind, each one more outlandish than the last, fueled by the alcohol and the sheer terror of the unknown. I imagined hushed phone calls, clandestine meetings, a world of secrets far beyond a simple affair. Was Sarah a victim or a perpetrator, or something in between, trapped by her own choices and the machinations of others? I drove on, the flask now empty, my head swimming. The initial shock and anger were beginning to subside, replaced by a profound, hollow ache. The realization was sinking in. My marriage, the central pillar of my life, was a lie, and the woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, was a stranger. A stranger with a secret mansion and a complicated past that was far from over. The road ahead was dark, uncertain. I had no idea where I was going or what I would do, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't go back to the way things were.
The us I'd believed in was gone, shattered into a million pieces, and all that remained was the stark, brutal truth of her deception. I felt a tremor, not of fear this time, but of a grim, dawning resolve. Whatever lay ahead, whatever secrets David Chen and the mansion held, I had to face them. The confession was made, the damage done. Now, I had to navigate the aftermath, to pick through the ruins of my life and try to build something, anything, from the ashes. The night was deep, and the road stretched on, a lonely, unforgiving path into the unknown. I took one last deep breath, the stale air of the car thick with the lingering scent of alcohol and despair, and pressed the accelerator.